Hello guys and welcome back to this channel. I am your host Idikano and this is Isaac News. Today on Isaac News, we're going to be looking at one of Nigeria's biggest fintech companies, Opay, okay, and how Opay has been rising to the occasion in the midst of Nigeria's digital banking struggles. While traditional banks have been drowning in negative PR, it has allowed non-traditional banks, such as the fintechs, to display their competence. One of such of this is Opay. Okay, this 4-year-old platform has gone on from being a regular fintech company to becoming one of the most trusted means of transaction available right now in the country. I'm going to take some time to talk about fintech and to talk about Opay and talk about some other positives that we can take from the fintech boom in Nigeria. And it would interest you to know that there are over 200 fintech companies in Nigeria. So I'd like you to sit down and enjoy the rest of today's video. So it's no news to anyone in the country right now that we are currently experiencing cash crunch. Although as at the time of making this video, the Supreme Court, had made a ruling that old notes should become legal tender until the 31st of December. And the Central Bank of Nigeria has gone ahead to consent to that order by the Supreme Court. So as we speak right now, officially, and even in the normal market, people are receiving old notes, and old notes are being recirculated into the Nigerian economy. So in light of the present cash crunch in the country, the fintech organizations have tried to fill the void that has been created by the traditional banks in the country. So Nigeria has a current bank penetration of about 40%, meaning that only 40% of its population have access to bank and banking infrastructure. So these fintech companies, or what you call the digital banks, have come to bridge that gap, being that they no longer need a physical place or a physical location to carry out transactions. Users can open an account on these digital banks online and run transactions, at very high speed. So the ever-growing fintech industry in Nigeria has done a very good job to fill the void that has been created, by the traditional banks in Nigeria. What I mean by that are the banks, such as UBA, Access Bank, First Bank, GTB, and otherwise. All right, remember, we're using Opay as a point of contact for the fintech industry. Opay is a mobile-based financial service company that operates in Nigeria and other African countries. Opay was actually launched in 2018, and in Nigeria it has become very popular for its mobile transfers, which allow users to send and receive money from their mobile phones without the need of a bank account. So popular questions on the streets is, why should I choose a fintech company over a traditional bank? Okay, fintech companies actually offer several advantages over traditional banks, which may make it a more attractive option for some users. Here are a few reasons why some people might choose a fintech over a traditional bank. Number one, accessibility. Okay, fintechs can be accessed from anywhere at any time, so as long as you have a mobile phone with internet connection. This makes it more convenient for people who may not have access to a bank branch or to an ATM. So I would speak for myself, okay? I'm in Akwa Ibom, I'm in Ikorobasi local government. And in my local government in Ikorobasi, there are only 3 banks in my whole local government. One UBA bank, one Union Bank, and one First Bank branch in my local government. And these 3 banks are located just a few miles away from each other. They're located in the local government capital, so Ikorobasi main town. Now, in neighboring local government around me, there are no banks. There are no banks in Pateni local government. There are no banks in Ichunobo local government. There are no banks in a lot of local governments in Akwa Ibom. Maybe out of the 31, there are probably no banks in over 20 local governments in Akwa Ibom state. And we are fairly developed compared to some other states in the country. So this goes ahead to show you that it is really not accessible. The banks are not as accessible as the digital banks are. People living in Pateni and other places would have to travel to capital cities, sometimes travel to Eket, or travel to Ikorobasi, or travel to Uyo, or travel to Abak just to have access to banking infrastructure. So fintechs have become readily accessible in all parts of the country. In the thick core north, you have bus drivers and keke drivers who have been using OP to receive bank transfers. All right. Second reason why fintech will be more attractive is low fees. Okay, fintech charges lower transaction fees compared to traditional banks, making it a more affordable option for people who need to make frequent small transactions. Okay, so if you have to pay multiple people in a day, a traditional bank will charge fees on their apps for every transaction that you make. So in order to avoid multiple charges, users who receive salaries just transfer these salaries to their Opay account or their Palm Play account or their MoneyPoint account or their Kode Bank account or any other fintech account that they have access to. And from there, they can begin to make transfers and not have their money deducted for every transfer they make. And this is something that works for the average Nigerian, as people are looking for ways to cut down on their everyday expenditure as much as they can. So people going to fintech must understand the importance of incentives and what it appeals to the public. So you may say, okay, it's just 13 naira I'm saving for every transfer. In the light of the cashless policy that is being implemented in Nigeria, you'll be making a lot of online transactions in the years ahead. So it is very important that limited amount of charges are being imposed per transaction, which is something that the traditional banks will be forced to implement as we have more and more fintech penetration. So next on our list is speed. Okay, transactions with fintechs are processed quickly, and this allows users to send and receive money in real time without any delay that is associated with the traditional banking systems. Anyone using any of these fintech companies can attest to this fact that it is fast and it is usually without hitches. So next on our list here is integration with other services. Fintechs have integrated with other services such as ride handling, such as food delivery, such as e-commerce, and this is allowing users to pay for these services seamlessly from their fintech wallet. If you're using Opay, you're using Koda, you're using Piggyvest, you're using PalmPlay, whatever you're using, a lot of other service operators have partnered with these people. So you can, through these different wallets, pay for services that these other service providers are offering. So we have financial inclusion. Okay, fintech provides access to financial services to people who may not have access to traditional banking services. Very typical. Like I said earlier in this video, just about 40% bank penetration is what we have in Nigeria. About 40% traditional bank penetration. So we have a whooping 60% unbanked population, which is what the fintechs are trying to leverage on to bridge this gap as much as they can. So we have cashbacks and discounts. Okay, a lot of fintech companies offers cashbacks and discounts to its users for using its services, making it a very attractive option for cost-conscious users. So when you use Opay and you use PalmPlay, you use MoneyPoint, you use Koda Bank, even for sometimes joining the banks or joining these platforms, you have some incentives, that are attached to it. Then you have sometimes you can buy airtime at cheaper rates. You can sometimes have cashbacks where they have all these incentives put in place to encourage people to keep using their services. So in summary, okay, fintechs provide a more accessible, a more affordable and convenient way for users to access financial services and make transactions from their mobile phones. When you compare this to the stress and that people go through using traditional banks. However, it is important to note that these fintech companies are not banks in and of themselves. Okay, and they may not offer some more advanced financial products and services that the traditional banks offer. Why am I saying this? The fintechs, as you know, they are still upgrading and trying to, become more integrated into the system. Nigeria is a fast developing country, even in its tech sector. So with time, okay, we can begin to see fintech companies operate, as banks, offer loans as some already are doing, and give credit cards as some are already doing. Receive have domiciliary accounts, you can receive dollar or receive other currencies, and carry out international transactions, which some are already doing, like Kuda and Opay are already doing international transactions. Okay, so we are slowly getting more and more integrated and bridging the gap between the African continent and the European or just Europe and the rest of the developed world, and where a lot of people over there can do transactions anywhere in the world, at the snap of a finger. So sentiment on the street has it that fintech companies may likely replace traditional banks in maybe a few decades to come, and but the traditional banks strongly feel that this is practically impossible. Okay, the banks have been here for years, and have a lot of data that can help them to capitalize on the growing youthful population in the country. The fintechs are very new to the Nigerian economy, although they are making a lot of money and they are growing at a very fast rate. My take on this is that the fintechs and the general banks at some point would have to meet together, sit together, and form a partnership that would favorably benefit the Nigerian economy in the long run. Okay, so if you're asking me, what you should do, I would suggest you should, you know, go watch some videos, on how to open an Opay account or MoneyPoint account or Koda Bank account or PiggyVest or PalmPlay or any other fintech company you know about. Okay, get to understand it, download their apps, play with it around, try out a few things and see if it works best for you. Okay, but if you're really seeking to cut down costs, okay, and that is being charged you each time you transfer, I think opening a fintech account is the a very good option to take right now. Also, a lot of what I've listed here typically applies to the INAIRA. Okay, the INAIRA platform that has been established by the Federal Bank of Nigeria, Central Bank of Nigeria, pardon me, also offers similar and even more advanced services than a lot of these other fintech companies have. Okay, and it has also seen an increase in its customer base. In fact, this whole policy is favorably benefiting the Nigerian economy. Right now, we would have experienced maybe a plateau in our business index, in the first quarter of the year, because it really took us a lot of time to adjust. But with the extension of the life expectancy of the old notes to be the 31st of December, I think every bank and all the financial institutions have a lot of time to increase the amount of traffic that their banks or their platforms or fintech platforms or websites can handle, so that by the time we step into 2024, it's going to be cashless at all levels. So if you're encouraging a lot of people to get on board, if you're a business owner, get a POS machine, get an OP account, generate a QR scan code, put all these things in place is to help your business thrive. Okay, we're going to this we're going to wrap it up for this section of the video. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed the things you've listened to, and if you did, I'd like you to like the video. I'd like you to comment about it, your own experience with OP, and I'd like you to share this video if you don't mind. Until we meet again, Godspeed.